Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Cyber Week recap. We're coming to you live from the BigCommerce headquarters in Austin, Texas. My name is Melissa Dixon. I lead content marketing at BigCommerce, and I have two of my esteemed colleagues with me today. Why don't you all introduce yourselves?
All right. Thanks, Melissa. I'm Fiona Norton, Director of Product Marketing for BigCommerce and Feedonomics.
And I'm Matt Dornfeld, Senior Director of Growth on the Feedonomics team.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for joining us today, and can't wait to hear what you all have to say. We are going to take a look at some data. We're going to unpack our BigCommerce results, look at some of the broader industry data, and also analyze some of the key trends that we're seeing. So before we get started, huge shout out to all of our BigCommerce customers for shattering the benchmark with a 26% increase in Cyber Week sales over last year. Congratulations. It's a lot of hard work. We'll get more into that. But first, Matt and Fiona, why don't we set the stage a little bit for our listeners? And what are some of the key trends shaping the e-commerce landscape? What are some of the external factors that have been influencing commerce? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, lots happened in the world, especially over the last couple of months. I think what was really surprising or actually just good to see was people continuing to buy the things that they want to buy and invest their money in things that bring them joy, happiness, and spread to others. That's all with the backdrop of a major political change, multiple interest rate cuts after a surge in interest rates over the years. And I think for brands, obviously that impacts how you deploy capital and where inventory goes. And I think just the results across the board in the industry were just super impressive. I think all platforms, BigCommerce and beyond, did well this year. And I think that's indicative of both the strength of the wallet, but also brands doing right by their customers.
Yeah, well said. Fiona, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, some of the same. I mean, one of the big things that I'm seeing right now is pulling forward of all of the Cyber Week sales, earlier and earlier discounting, and also deeper discounting. So we're seeing brands do heavier discounting than they have in the past. And that is generally the advice we give brands as well. Discount as much as you can, because this is a really good time to acquire new customers. And we're seeing that, with this year in particular, there is a shorter selling season between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Right. So that pulled forward some of that sale period even more.
Yeah, it was 5 days shorter, only 26 days between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which does truly create a sense of urgency for shoppers, I think. So that worked to a lot of the brands and retailers' advantage. Anything else stand out to you? What about channels, Matt? This is your area of expertise. Yeah. What have you seen that's been building as we lead up to Cyber Week and holidays?
Yeah, I mean, I think the channel landscape has evolved quite a bit over the last few years. There's been an emergence of new marketplaces that have taken pretty strong footholds in the US especially. So Chinese-based platforms like Temu, Shein, they've been investing aggressively online in the build-up to the holiday season. And then obviously you've got TikTok Shop as well. And so We'll talk more about that today. But in general, I think the exposure those marketplaces have won through investment, through repetition and engagement, I think has been really impressive and something we certainly saw. And I'm expecting more of that in the years to come. Typically, in the APAC region, especially around China and surrounding parts, we see advancements in how marketplaces do business. And it's like a bullwhip effect. Over time, it eventually comes to the Western market, and we're typically slower to adopt some of those newer trends. And so things like live selling were also pretty new and consistent components of this year's holiday season that I think we'll continue to see more of in the future.
Yeah, great insights. There was a lot of speculation, I think, from the experts leading up to Cyber Week, and we looked at a lot of information and data from NRF and other publications. And I think the general consensus was finances are in good shape overall. People are ready to spend, but they're going to be spending cautiously. So as Cyber Week turned out, the actual results sort of did eclipse some of the predictions. So just to name a few, so NRF was really predicting that winter holiday sales overall are expected to grow between 2.5% and 3.5%. And it's interesting when you look at Cyber Week, what we saw, some of the benchmarks from Salesforce, for example, were more of a 6% growth. And Adobe which cites US only data, was around 8%. So these brands and retailers, I think, really did sort of beat the expectations a little bit. So that's always a great thing to see. I would love to get into some of our BigCommerce results. Do you want to hear some of the highlights?
Yeah,
I know that our audience does.
Let's do it.
Okay. So the big one that I mentioned was the 26% year over year GMV growth. That's gross merchandise volume, right? And that truly was the largest increase that our customers have seen since we started reporting a few years ago, back in 2021. So that was fantastic to see. And the other things worth mentioning are that shoppers were truly, I think, more active this year because we saw that through a 13% increase in total orders and an 11% increase in AOV, which were both higher than last year as well. So I think what you see is that people are actually shopping more and they're spending more based on this. Some of the really interesting things, and I'm sure you guys saw this as well, Thanksgiving getting bigger every year. It's wild to see how it grows. So did you do Thanksgiving shopping? Any of you?
Yeah, I was a pretty active shopper this year, more than years past, actually. I bought everything from supplements to cologne to shoes. And, I think to your earlier point, how the deals were coming about was a little bit different this year.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting emails about we've extended the sale an extra day. And so the holiday is expanding in a way that I haven't really seen before.
Totally. Well, we can come back to the supplements and cologne. I'd love to hear more about that. And all your other purchases. But yeah, the Thanksgiving thing is wild because with our BigCommerce customers alone, they saw 36% in growth and 20% in orders from last year. That's massive. And also looking at some of the broader industry reporting, Salesforce had Thanksgiving sales up 6%, and Adobe, which again, US only, had Thanksgiving sales up by 8.8%. So these are large numbers all around. I think what we still saw, though, is the Black Friday is still sort of the big one. Black Friday and Cyber Monday, of course, we know that. So for BigCommerce, Black Friday was biggest in terms of GMV. There was a 28% increase and total orders. So, and that was the same as last year, too. Black Friday was huge. A couple other things worth noting are that the average order value increases were biggest on Cyber Monday with 16% and Black Friday also with 15%. So that's, again, where I'm seeing shoppers are spending more on individual purchases. Is that what you've seen as well?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, something else I wanted to bring up that I think is surprising to some is I was seeing this narrative before Cyber Week that experts were predicting that bigger retailers would be the big winners and it would all go to the Amazons of the world. That's not what we saw for BigCommerce merchants.
Right.
We saw growth across the board from small businesses, our strength in mid-market, all the way up to our enterprises. And even when I think about the BigCommerce merchants I bought from this holiday season that I was really happy with, all the way from Jay's Little Things, which is a really cool Lego minifigures store.
Oh,
Bought
okay.
some presents for my nephews there. Really interesting stuff you can't get anywhere else, all the way to major appliance brands, when I needed a new fridge. So I was shopping across the board, and I think a lot of other people were too.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that we keep seeing is this global growth in Cyber Week, which is really fascinating to watch because even I think with our US brands and retailers did great, plus 27% in GMV, higher orders and AOV as well. But our EMEA stores saw even bigger results. There was a 39% GMV increase and a 45% increase in orders. So that's really fascinating. We saw 112% in Italy. So those are just really interesting to look at and see how it's catching on and building every year, the international scope of Cyber Week. So
yeah, I'd read an industry report, less so about international business, but just in general that shopping was dominated or was very dominating online.
Yeah.
Right. Brick and mortar actually didn't grow super aggressively.
I saw that.
We've seen it in other markets in the past. And so I think that means a few things. One, that's just an opportunity, right? If you have an online and offline experience, you want to thread those things together. But also, you're seeing more and more online purchases means that experience is getting better. It's getting easier, right? It's more seamless. It's native to you. It's one click, one touch. And I think that's you make something easier to buy, you remove friction, you're going to probably see more sales. And I think that's evidenced by all the data you've shared today as well.
Oh, yeah. We see that with one of our UK clients, Sole Trader. They let us know that they had a really strong Cyber Week. And one of the reasons is that they replatformed to BigCommerce this year, and they added a bunch of new features to the site, made the site a lot faster and just easier to navigate. So as this increases, I think we'll see that trend back towards e-commerce for holiday shopping season.
Yeah, and then in parallel, there's the increase in mobile shopping as well, which is significant. I know even just for our BigCommerce customers, there was an increase in 7% compared to last year, and mobile accounted for 35% of all orders. On a broader scale, it was actually more than half of U.S. purchases. I saw that from Adobe Analytics. But this is an upward trend that we actually saw last year was the first year, I recall reading this from Salesforce, Adobe, NRF, all the big ones, that last year was the first year during Cyber Week that mobile eclipsed desktop by just I think it was 1 or 2%. And now we're up a little higher. So it's on the rise.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there are marketplaces that are, mobile first or very mobile friendly, like Shein, for example. Again, just making that experience really easy to just find what you're looking for, purchase it, get it really quickly. Those are all points of friction normally. And so resolving that obviously results in more sales. So not so much of a surprise.
Right.
But on the TikTok front, with live selling, like I was mentioning earlier, I think one of the beauties of live selling is that if you can find a content creator that looks like you, talks like you, behaves like you, you're going to A, relate to that person, but B, when that person tries on something, you're effectively trying it on yourself in varying degrees, right? Yeah. So you have some level of confidence in knowing that, that thing I really like that I see on this woman or this person, oh wow, this will look good on me too. I'm going to purchase this thing and I'm going to do it on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I think those experiences start to snowball. Right. And they get bigger and bigger. And we'll talk about that more today, I'm sure. But super exciting trend that I'm going to watch over the months to come.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw, on TikTok and on Instagram, so much of the user generated content with the stickers over for Cyber Week sales. And it's just a lot more compelling than the static, image with Cyber Week sale that we saw in the past.
Yep.
Well, I'm curious about social commerce. Did either of you purchase via social channels this Cyber Week? I did. I'm an Instagram shopper.
Okay.
The ads,
me too.
They get me.
I discovered a lot of new products, and that's something we were talking about. I mean, this is such a good time to acquire new customers because I'm kind of already in the mood to shop for Christmas gifts for other people. And hey, if I see something for myself,
Absolutely.
So I discovered a lot of new brands that I'm really excited to get those packages in the mail.
Yeah, the thing that I found most interesting and I'm curious to see if you all did this too, but because the discounts were so deep, as you mentioned, and shoppers, while, they're spending, but they're still shopping cautiously and strategically. I bought a lot of my skincare products for myself because they were on sale.
I did that too.
It was a good time to stock up. And I'm curious to see that trend more. I want to follow that. Yeah.
I'd say for me, less so social commerce. And admittedly, I don't use a lot of these apps in my personal life, but I'd say mobile, to your point, was definitely how I got hooked in.
Totally.
Got a message that there was a sale, immediately stopped what I was doing, went to the site, looked for the thing. And the one that caught my eye the most was with Noble. So big fan of their products, excellent shoes and footwear. So they had a sale, 70% off. And I was like, holy crap. I need to stop whatever I'm doing and pivot, buy the thing and then go back to whatever.
Absolutely.
And that's worked perfectly, right?
Yeah.
I got what I wanted. They got what they wanted. It was a great exchange.
Great value exchange. Yes.
Well, this is one of the only times of the year where we see consumers really holding spend and then being ready to spend. And that's one of the reasons why we do advise our customers to consider the deepest discount they can, do with margin profiles in mind and whatnot, because their consumers are waiting until this time period to buy stock up on skincare, other major items, to buy big appliances, that kind of thing. And they're going to go with the brand with the best discount in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. Consistently, it seems every year, people are like, well, is Cyber Week, does it still matter? And yet for the last, 5+ years, yes, it matters.
Well, it's even bigger in other parts of the world, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like Singles Day out in Asia, we're still small.
Right.
compared to that, right? That's crazy to think about what I was saying earlier about the trends, right? Where things will eventually go. If you look in the other half of the world, I mean, business is booming, and it's been booming for years.
Well, that's why we're also seeing a lot of BigCommerce merchants focusing on international expansion this year.
Yes,
setting up their tech
exactly.
stack and platform for the future to sell internationally.
Yep.
Yeah, great point. The other thing to touch on is payments, because alternative payment methods and particularly BNPL are still on the rise. We saw at BigCommerce a 10% increase in BNPL revenue and also a 3% increase in alternative payment methods. Those are things like PayPal, Amazon, Apple Wallet, all of those. And those numbers are up as well on the broader scale. So curious, traditional payment methods or alternative payment methods, or a mix for you too?
It's a mix based
It's a
on
mix.
convenience.
It depends on the store, depends on,
Totally.
what the purchase as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, it's funny, like when you start to see changes in your day-to-day life and how payments start to influence those things. Like, for example, we all shop at HEB, at least I do. And, now I can tap to pay.
Oh, yeah, I
and
love
check
that.
out.
Yes,
And I'm like,
they
this
just
is
redid
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So less tied to Black Friday, but more tied to the experience of like how that's going to influence things in the, the months and quarters to come. And I think that's a great indication of what we'll see on online too.
Yeah, from the brand and retailer side, we are seeing a lot of brands and retailers get more strategic about payments in terms of margin. We all know there's big margin pressure on brands and retailers right now. And with heavier discounting, that becomes even more important. So we're offering a lot of strategic payments consults to our customers to try to make sure they can get, the best rates possible and really hone in their payment strategy.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, it just comes down to flexibility.
Yeah.
And different customers want different options, and you must have the options that your customers want. Fiona, tell me a little bit about what you've seen with verticals or some of the different categories, and even with our BigCommerce customers or broader.
Absolutely. So BigCommerce, we span all verticals. We really serve customers in every corner of online shopping. But for Cyber Week, our top performing sectors by GMV growth year over year were apparel and accessories, which grew by over 50% year over year. Wow. We have some really top apparel clients, and they did really well this Cyber Week. Toys and games was a strong growth driver.
As expected, yeah.
Sporting goods stores did really well. Hardware and tools, still going strong with a lot of the home renovation that has been carried on from kind of that 2020 period. Baby and toddler. Yeah. And then food and beverage, which we've seen, of course, a huge growth in, the beverage industry over the past few years as well.
Yeah, that's been really interesting to watch. What other customers did you hear from? Because I think you had a few that you talked to. Uplift Desk, one of our favorites.
Yes, another Austin company. They're a longstanding BigCommerce customer. They mentioned they had a really strong week. A lot of people are going to be getting Uplift Desk under the tree this year. I already have two. Otherwise, I would be getting.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. But they said that their customers were really happy with the shopping experience, and they had heard from some customers over Cyber Week that they were really excited about kind of how seamless everything was on the site.
Awesome. Great to hear. Shout out Uplift Desk.
Yes.
It is a great gift, or just a purchase for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I think when we get down to it, there's a little bit of time left in the season.
Yeah.
So, there are still things that brands and retailers can do. What do you think is most important for them to focus on through the duration of the holiday season? What do you guys feel like stands out to you?
I mean, in general, like operations are the backbone of these brands, right? So they keep the train on the tracks. They make sure that things are delivered on time, that the returns process is simple, that they have inventory buffers so that way they don't oversell in a marketplace and get dinged at like the worst possible time.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm a bit of a broken record. I probably said something similar last year, but it's still true.
It is.
Operations are like incredibly important. And, if you're a COO or you work in the operations division period at a brand, right now is your Super Bowl, your World Series, this is it. So I think just doubling down and lending support internally to those teams to make sure that that part of the experience is super well managed, it's going to make a world of difference. And then to that end, especially for brands that are on like TikTok Shop, what we saw this year was there were over 30,000 different live streams streamed on TikTok Shop this year.
Wow.
It's crazy, right?
Yes.
So that means there's a ton of engagement on people watching and engaging with videos, likely on mobile, across platforms. And I think what that indicates is that category diversification and making sure you're still placing your bets in the right places at the right time are going to be really important. So if you're going to do live streaming between now and the end of the year, make sure that content is based off of what you just learned from Black Friday as well, right? You can still recycle concepts and ideas and discounts and things like that through the end of the year. So I would just double down on what you just learned over the last 2 days, pull that through, and then lean on your partners and your vendors to bring that to a reality with the last month or so of the year.
Yeah, great advice. Fiona, what do you think is top of mind for the holidays?
Yeah, I think, keep going strong on your momentum from Cyber Week. Continue shifting some spend towards Meta and TikTok if you haven't already. It's a great time to acquire new customers and help people with that discovery that we mentioned. People are looking to buy, they're looking for gift ideas. If you can get in front of them on the channels they're already spending time, you can see a lot of goodness. Just make sure to keep your AMER in mind, acquisition marketing efficiency ratio. You want to make sure you're on top of your analytics. You understand how you're, spending and making sure that you're continuing to be profitable throughout this season.
Right.
But you want to drive sales. I mean, this is, again, when consumers want to buy. And then looking into January, take your breath, but then you're going to be preparing not only for some returns processing, but also for growth for the next Cyber Week. It's never too early.
Yeah. I think coming at it from the more of the brand and the content side, as I do, communication is paramount. Cannot underscore that enough. Just the clear and constant and efficient communication about orders, fulfillment, when do sales end, when are you taking returns through, all of that.
Where's my order?
Yeah. We can't let your guard down for these last few weeks. That's when it's most important.
Totally.
And make sure your site performance is really honed in as well. I mean, obviously, it's not a time to be making a lot of changes, but it's a time to be monitoring proactively and making sure that your site's going to be able to handle traffic through the end of the holiday season.
Yes, and that reminds me, BigCommerce customers did have 100% uptime for the 11th year in a row.
I'm really proud of that one.
Great.
Yeah, so
awesome.
So great teeing me up for that one, Fiona. Okay, so 2025, right around the corner. We're seeing so many interesting things. We didn't even talk about AI, which, we don't need to get too much into today, but I did see some data around AI enhancing traffic and conversion. And, that's now a big part of Cyber Week and, just e-commerce moving forward. So what do you feel like some of the implications are for 2025 from these results?
Well, I mean, what we saw this year too is that Miracle, which is a marketplace software platform, helps marketplaces stand up their own marketplaces.
Okay.
So they saw, I think, over $100 million in GMV over Black Friday, which is indicative of the niche marketplace growth across a bunch of different areas, right? So they power Macy's, for example. So obviously, more people are going to Macy's.com to buy products. And so what I think we'll continue to see is brands placing really smart bets on channels that are relevant for their category.
Yes.
And so the time to think about that is to your point, like early January, like give yourself some time to ramp up and put the pieces in the right place. But if you're betting on the right few channels, you're going to create new revenue streams for you. So by the time you get to this season next year, you've already built up a relationship with a new retailer, new customers you've likely acquired, and also just a new strategy entirely, right? There are new ads programs on those marketplaces as well. And so I'm expecting more channel diversification. Hopefully we're getting out from whatever the economy has been doing for the last year or two. And I think we're ready to really drive forward, and new marketplaces will help fuel that growth too.
Awesome. Well, serendipitously, we had a question from the audience on that exact topic. So if you've answered it mostly, but if you want to expand, the question was, what channels are you bullish on for 2025? How can brands optimize adding new channels into their media mix?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are a lot of ways to do that. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I work at Feedonomics and we power channel integrations. And there's a lot that goes into connecting to a new channel. There was a time when you could just click a button and connect your data from one place to another, and those options still exist in the world. But if you're going to win on new marketplaces and ads channels, you need to deliver data in a way that goes to those channels and that those channels are ready to receive that information. So that way, when a shopper goes onto a new channel and they're looking for a shirt, they actually find the shirt that they're looking for and not something else, right?
Discovery.
Discovery is crucial.
It's huge.
And so I think in general, leaning on your partners, like your agency relationships, a lot of the brands that will likely listen to this today have performance agency partners that are focused on finding those new areas of growth. So I think leaning into those conversations and starting to figure out where can we place strategic bets for 2025 and then recognize that in our bottom line. And then more so, kind of like what we were talking about, is recycle those learnings to redeploy them into new areas. And so ultimately, from a marketplace perspective, I'm expecting to see more out of Temu, Shein, TikTok Shop. Again, the China based companies that are really aggressively pushing westward are going to, I think, have a big day in 2025. And then you have other new programs coming from your traditional partners as well. So your Amazons, your Walmarts, even eBays, folks that have been there forever are still innovating, right? They're bringing new programs to market. And I think it's incumbent upon brands and their partners to invest in new programs when they come to light.
Target 360.
That's it.
Been reading about it.
Yeah, you ready?
I'm not going to be an early adopter as a consumer, speaking as a consumer, but I'm interested to see where it goes and how big it gets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of things happening. Fiona, what do you feel like is paramount for brands and retailers in 2025?
Well, I spend a lot of time thinking about the e-commerce platform side. I mentioned performance being really important this Cyber Week. I think in order to get ready for next year's Cyber Week, whether you were happy with your site performance and you want to do even better, or if you weren't, then it's even more important. I want brands and retailers to be thinking a lot about site speed, site experience, the ability to both for you to move fast and be agile as the person kind of controlling the site and reacting to changes in what you're seeing in real time, consumer behavior and your competitors do, but also for your actual customers shopping on the site for it to be fast. Because we all know if you're shopping and the site's slow, it's taking a long time to load, you're going to leave and go to any of the other competitors that are doing huge sales as well. So with that in mind, we're launching Catalyst, our new storefront for BigCommerce. We're going to, that's already live, but we're going to be talking a lot more about it in the coming weeks. So you heard it here first. Something to focus on is make sure that your site is fast. And that's what we have optimized our new storefront for. We want to make sure that not only that our clients can move really quickly, but again, also that their customers are going to have that super fast experience on site.
Elevated experience, blazing fast speeds. Awesome.
And that kind of thing takes a while. So if you are thinking about improving that for next holiday season, start looking in January.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic insights. Is there anything that either of you wanted to mention that we didn't cover yet?
Well, I've talked about what I bought. I feel like
I knew this was coming.
This is the appropriate moment. We've got a couple minutes left. What did y'all invest in?
Okay. Well, I did already divulge my skincare secret. Not going to speak to any of the brands, but yeah, I did do that for myself. And I really went to town on gifts this year, though, in a way that I did not last year. Like last year, I was definitely I got plenty of time. I do think that shortened shopping period got to me because I was kind of like, it's already December 2nd on Cyber Monday. So I bought gifts for my daughter and my husband, neither of whom are going to be watching this, so it's fine. What about you?
Never know.
Yeah. So gifts for a 6-year-old and a mid-40s man. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of gifts for me as well. A lot of clothes. I'm ashamed to say I bought more for myself than I should have.
No, that's great. Yeah, you work hard.
Yeah,
you deserve it.
She's so good at her job.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So, I think we had 3 of the company's best yappers here today. So we were able to cover a lot.
I agree, and that is such a kind compliment. A yapper. We're good yappers.
That's all right. Yeah,
I mean, I
get
get paid to talk about online shopping, so it's pretty good.
I mean,
it is
great.
great.
That's not so bad.
No, it's not. I love to shop.
To your point, I did buy more for myself this year than normal, and I think it was
the
because
cologne.
The cologne, the shoes. It was how I was engaged, though.
Yeah.
Was it the discovery element? For you?
I was not on my computer looking for anything. So it was more like I got a text message.
Yeah.
And I stopped what I was doing, and I knew what I was doing in the moment. So that was really interesting to just notice the trend or behavior change.
Right.
The other thing, email. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but more emails during the holiday season is typically better. And I noticed that as a shopper too, I was a little annoyed to get so many emails, but then I saw how great the sales were and ended up buying a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I totally agree because it was a lot more, but I was appreciative of those updates. Like I did want to be shopping the sales. So
Right.
it was good.
Right.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Deep discounts, operations, communication for the rest of the season.
That's it.
And then we'll see what 2025 has in store for us. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. And huge thank you to Fiona and Matt. Really appreciate your perspectives and your insights.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. And congrats again to all of our BigCommerce merchants and all the other brands and retailers out there. Hope you crushed it as well.